Single mom was rejected for bringing her child to the interview until the Millionaire CEO walked in. As Sarah continued the interview, she couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions: nervousness, hope, and a lingering sense of disbelief. Thomas Harper, the CEO, was sitting across from her with an air of calm confidence. But instead of the usual cold, impersonal attitude she expected from someone in his position, he seemed genuinely interested in her. She glanced over at Lucas, who was quietly playing with his toy truck, his innocent little face offering her a silent reminder of why she had to keep going, no matter how awkward this situation was. Sarah's mind raced as she tried to focus on the interview questions. Thomas was asking about her previous experience, her goals, and how she handled challenges. But her mind kept wandering to Lucas. Would he be okay? Would they be okay? Her thoughts were interrupted by Thomas's voice, pulling her back into the moment. I must say, your dedication to your son is admirable, he said, his tone warm. It's clear that you're someone who doesn't give up easily. Sarah blinked, not expecting such a compliment from a man who probably had everything handed to him in life. She looked up at him, surprised by his words. Thank you, she replied, her voice a bit shaky. He's everything to me. She paused, taking a deep breath. I've had to sacrifice a lot to be here today, but I can't give up on him. He deserves more than I could ever give him on my own. Thomas nodded thoughtfully, his eyes softening. I understand, he said quietly. And that's why I believe you're exactly the kind of person we need at our company. His words hung in the air for a moment, leaving Sarah unsure of what he meant. Excuse me, she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm offering you the job, Thomas said with a smile. But there's more to it. I want to make sure you and Lucas have everything you need to succeed, not just professionally, but personally as well. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Was he serious? She blinked in disbelief, her thoughts racing. This couldn't be happening. She had been so sure she would leave here empty-handed, just like every other interview she had been on. But here he was, offering her a chance she had never dreamed of. I don't understand, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I thought I was just here for the interview. Are you saying you want to hire me? Thomas leaned forward slightly, his expression serious. Yes, I am, he said, nodding. But I want to do more than just offer you a job. I want to help you and Lucas. I know how hard it must be to raise a child alone, and I want to make sure you don't have to struggle. He paused, as if searching for the right words. I want to offer you a position at my company, yes. But I also want to help with your living situation, and I can provide financial assistance for Lucas's education as well. I know this might be overwhelming, but I want you to take this opportunity and make the most of it. Sarah's mind was reeling. She had come here hoping for a chance to prove herself, but this was so much more than she could have ever imagined. She looked down at Lucas, who was now looking up at her with wide, curious eyes. His presence had always been the one constant in her life, the one thing she had fought so hard to protect. But now, it seemed that all her sacrifices were finally starting to pay off. Thomas's words were still echoing in her mind as she tried to process everything. This wasn't just about a job anymore. This was about a chance at a new life, a life where she and Lucas could finally have stability and security. Why are you doing this? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Thomas smiled again, his eyes softening even more. Because I believe in second chances, he said simply. And I believe that people like you, people who fight for their families, deserve a chance to thrive. You don't have to do it alone anymore, Sarah. Sarah was speechless. She had come to this interview expecting to leave with another rejection letter, another failure to add to the list. But instead, she was being handed a chance to change everything. She didn't know what to say, so she just nodded slowly, her eyes filled with gratitude and disbelief. Thomas continued, Take some time to think about it. I know this is a lot to take in, but the offer stands. We want you on our team, and I want to help you succeed. Sarah felt a lump in her throat. She had spent so many years feeling alone, struggling to provide for her son, never expecting that one day someone would offer to help her, let alone someone as powerful and wealthy as Thomas Harper. She glanced at Lucas again, his innocent smile lighting up the room, and she knew in that moment that everything was about to change. She took a deep breath, feeling a surge of hope rise within her. This wasn't just a job opportunity, it was a new beginning. And for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt like maybe, just maybe, things were finally going to be okay. Sarah sat there in stunned silence, trying to process what Thomas had just offered her. A job, financial support, help with Lucas's education. It was everything she had dreamed of, and yet it felt like a dream she was too afraid to reach out and touch. For years, she had struggled to make ends meet, working long hours just to keep a roof over her head and food on the table. She had never imagined that someone like Thomas, a man with so much power and wealth, would offer her a chance at a new life. He was offering her more than just a job. He was offering her the opportunity to rebuild everything she had worked so hard to achieve, but always seemed just out of reach. Her mind was racing as she tried to absorb the enormity of the moment. I don't know what to say, she finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. She had never been in a position like this before, where someone's generosity seemed too good to be true. You don't have to say anything right now, Thomas replied calmly, his gaze steady and understanding. Take your time. I know this is a lot to process, but I want you to know that the offer stands. If you're ready to take it, you and Lucas can have the stability you've always wanted. Sarah felt a lump form in her throat as she glanced at Lucas, who was still sitting quietly, his toy truck in hand. His big eyes were wide with curiosity, sensing that something important was happening, but he had no idea how much this moment would change their lives. Sarah blinked back tears, struggling to keep her composure. You're giving me so much, she said softly, her heart full of gratitude. I don't know if I can accept it. I've always done things on my own. I've always had to fight for everything. Thomas smiled gently. I understand, he said. But sometimes it's okay to accept help. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong, because it shows that you're willing to let others be a part of your journey. You don't have to do everything alone, Sarah. His words were exactly what she needed to hear. She had spent so many years pushing people away, afraid that relying on others would somehow make her less capable. But now, here was this man, offering to help her without any strings attached, simply because he believed in her potential. For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. She had spent so much time doubting herself, wondering if she was doing enough for Lucas, questioning whether she was enough. But Thomas's kindness was like a light shining through the darkness, showing her that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she had always believed. I'm scared, she admitted, her voice trembling. I've never been in a situation like this. I've never had someone offer me so much, and I don't know if I can live up to it. Thomas's smile softened. I'm not asking you to be perfect, Sarah. I'm asking you to give it a chance. You've already proven that you're capable of so much. You're here today, sitting in front of me, doing everything you can for your son. That's what matters. His words hit her like a wave, washing over her all at once. She had always believed that she had to do everything herself, that asking for help was a sign of weakness. But now, with Thomas's offer on the table, she began to see things differently. Maybe it was time to stop fighting alone. Maybe it was time to embrace the support that was being offered to her. Okay, she said, her voice steady now, though still filled with emotion. Okay, I'll take the job. And I'll take the help. For me and for Lucas. Thomas's face lit up with a genuine smile, and Sarah felt a weight lift off her shoulders. For the first time in years, she felt like the future was something to look forward to, something within her reach. You won't regret it, Thomas said. I promise you that. As the interview came to a close, Sarah shook his hand, still in disbelief that this was really happening. She had come into this office that morning expecting another rejection, another door slammed in her face. But instead, she was walking out with a new opportunity, a chance to build a life she had only dreamed of. As she left the building with Lucas by her side, she felt the first stirrings of excitement in her chest. She wasn't sure exactly what the future held, but she knew it was going to be different. And for the first time in a long time, that thought filled her with hope. As Sarah walked out of the building, Lucas holding her hand, a sense of disbelief still hung in the air. The weight of what had just happened was too much for her to fully grasp in that moment. She had gone in for an interview, expecting nothing more than a rejection, and instead, she walked out with a job offer. More than just a job, really. She had been given the chance to change her life. Mom, are we going home now? Lucas asked, looking up at her with innocent eyes. Sarah smiled softly, brushing a lock of hair behind his ear. Not yet, sweetie, she said. We're going to celebrate. They stopped at a nearby cafe, and as they sat down with their drinks, Sarah could feel her heart pounding with excitement. It was overwhelming to think that her whole life was about to change, but it was also exhilarating. She could already imagine the future. No more sleepless nights worrying about bills. No more juggling 2 jobs just to make ends meet. And maybe, just maybe, she could finally give Lucas the life he deserved. The life she had always dreamed of for him. The next few days passed in a blur of paperwork, meetings, and phone calls, as Sarah prepared to start her new job. Thomas had been true to his word. Not only had he arranged for her to start at his company, but he had also made sure Lucas had everything he needed. He had found a school nearby, and even helped arrange a small apartment for them. Sarah couldn't believe how quickly everything had fallen into place. It felt like a dream that she was waiting to wake up from. But as the days turned into weeks, she began to realize that this wasn't just a dream. It was real. She was really going to have a chance at building a better life, and it was all thanks to Thomas. She had never expected anyone to show her this kind of kindness, let alone someone with so much power. Thomas had made it clear that he wanted her to succeed, not just as an employee, but as a person. He even invited her to meet with him one afternoon to discuss her career goals, asking her what she wanted for herself and for Lucas in the future. "I know this is a big change for you," Thomas said, his voice calm and encouraging as they sat in his office. "But I want you to understand that I'm not just here to give you a paycheck. I'm here to help you grow." Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of his words sink in. She had always been focused on survival, on making it through the day, but now, with Thomas's help, she could think about more than just getting by. She could think about the future, about what she wanted to accomplish, about how she could make a real impact on her life and the lives of others. Over the next few months, Sarah settled into her new role. It wasn't easy. There were challenges along the way, as there always are with a new job, but she felt supported every step of the way. Thomas checked in with her regularly, offering advice and guidance when needed. He didn't just view her as an employee, he saw her as someone worth investing in. As Sarah continued to prove herself in the workplace, something unexpected began to happen. She started to gain confidence, not just in her abilities at work, but in herself as a person. She had always been so hard on herself, feeling like she had to be perfect at everything. But now she realized that she didn't have to be perfect. She just had to keep trying, keep moving forward. And that was enough. One afternoon, as Sarah was leaving the office, Thomas stopped her in the hallway. "Sarah," he said, his tone serious yet kind. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you." She looked up at him, a little nervous. "What is it?" she asked. "I know this may come as a surprise," he continued, "but I think you're ready for more responsibility. I want to offer you a promotion. You've been doing incredible work, and I think you have the potential to go even further." Sarah's eyes widened in shock. A promotion? She had only been with the company for a few months, and yet Thomas was offering her more responsibility? "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm absolutely sure," Thomas said, his smile reassuring. "You've earned it. I've seen your dedication, your hard work, and your heart. You're more than capable of taking this on." As Sarah stood there, her heart swelling with pride, she realized something. This wasn't just about the job or the promotion. It was about the person she had become. She wasn't just a single mom struggling to get by anymore. She was someone with potential, someone who had a future to look forward to. And it was all because she had allowed herself to take a chance that had been offered to her, not by fate, but by someone who believed in her. Sarah walked out of the office that day feeling like she was finally on the path to something greater. And as she thought about her son, Lucas, she knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. One where they could both dream big and actually see those dreams come true. As the weeks passed, Sarah found herself adjusting to her new life in ways she never thought possible. The work was demanding, but fulfilling. Every day, she learned something new, and the challenges she faced only made her stronger. But what stood out the most was how different her life felt now. Gone were the sleepless nights spent worrying about bills, the days spent juggling multiple jobs just to stay afloat. Now, she had stability. She had a future. And most importantly, she had the time and space to be the kind of mother she always wanted to be for Lucas. Every evening, after finishing work, Sarah would rush home to Lucas, who was thriving in his new school. He had made friends, his teachers loved him, and Sarah could see a light in his eyes that hadn't been there before. They were both settling into their new rhythm, and it felt good. It felt like home. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Sarah looked at Lucas with a full heart. "How was school today, sweetie?" she asked, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. Lucas smiled brightly. "It was great, Mom. I made a new friend, and we played football at recess. And guess what? My teacher said I'm really good at math." Sarah chuckled, her heart swelling with pride. "That's awesome, buddy. I'm so proud of you." As they settled into their evening routine, Sarah couldn't help but think back to where they had been just a few months ago. She remembered the stress, the constant feeling of being overwhelmed, and the uncertainty of not knowing how she would make it through the next day. And now, she had everything she needed, not just a job, but the chance to create a future, to give Lucas a life he deserved. It was a gift she never thought she would receive. She had Thomas to thank for that. As her first few months at the company passed, Sarah continued to prove herself. She took on the promotion with determination and grace, and soon, she was trusted with more responsibilities. The confidence she had once lacked was now beginning to shine through in everything she did. She wasn't just a single mom anymore. She was a capable, confident woman who knew her worth and was no longer afraid to show it. Thomas had been right all along. He had seen something in her that she hadn't even seen in herself. He had believed in her potential, and now she was starting to believe in it too. It wasn't just about the job, though. It was about the impact it had on her life, on Lucas's life. She had more time to spend with him, to help him with his homework, to talk to him about his day. She wasn't just a mother who was always stressed and tired. She was present, she was there, and she was making memories. One afternoon, Sarah received an unexpected call from Thomas. She had just finished a meeting and was getting ready to leave when her phone rang. "Sarah," Thomas's voice came through the line, sounding a bit more serious than usual. "I need to speak with you about something." "Of course," Sarah replied, a little concerned. "What's going on?" "It's about the next big project we're working on," he said. "I want you to lead it." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Led a project? She had only been with the company for a few months, and now he was offering her such a significant role? "I'm honored, but are you sure I'm the right person for this?" she asked, still trying to wrap her head around the offer. "I'm sure," Thomas replied confidently. "I've seen your work, your dedication, and your ability to handle everything that's been thrown your way. You're ready for this. You've more than proven that." Sarah felt a rush of emotions. She had worked so hard to get to this point, and now, this was her chance to show the world what she could do. "I won't let you down," she said, her voice steady, filled with resolve. "I know you won't," Thomas said with a smile in his voice. "I have faith in you." That night, as Sarah told Lucas the news, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and excitement. "Guess what, Lucas?" she said, sitting beside him on the couch. "I'm going to be in charge of a big project at work. I'm going to lead it." Lucas's eyes widened with excitement. "That's awesome, Mom," he exclaimed. "You're going to be the boss." Sarah laughed, ruffling his hair. "I guess I am." She hugged him tightly, feeling more connected to him than ever before. This was the life she had always dreamed of, one where she could provide for her son, where she could take charge of her future, and where she could be the kind of mother she always wanted to be. It wasn't just about success or career growth. It was about making the most of every moment with Lucas, about being the kind of role model she had always hoped to be. And as she sat there with him, she knew that their future was brighter than she could have ever imagined. They had been given a second chance, a chance to live the life they deserved, and she was going to make sure they didn't waste it. As the days passed, Sarah settled into her new role as the lead on the big project. It wasn't easy, but she felt more empowered than she had ever felt in her life. The responsibilities were immense, but the support from Thomas and her colleagues made it possible. She worked tirelessly, but for the first time, it felt like she was working towards something bigger than just survival. She was working towards her future, towards her son's future. Every day, she put in the effort, learning new things, developing new skills, and proving to herself that she was capable of more than she ever imagined. She also made sure to balance her work with her time with Lucas. They would spend their evenings together, playing games, reading books, and talking about their day. It wasn't just about the job anymore. It was about creating memories with him, memories she knew he would cherish for the rest of his life. One evening, as she tucked Lucas into bed, he looked up at her with his big brown eyes and said, "Mom, you're the best. I'm so proud of you." Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "I'm proud of you too, sweetheart. You're my inspiration." Those words, coming from her son, meant more than any promotion or job offer ever could. They reminded her why she had worked so hard for so many years to give him a better life, a life full of love and opportunity. The next few months were a whirlwind of meetings, deadlines, and long hours, but Sarah was thriving. She had found her groove in the company, and her work was getting noticed. Her colleagues respected her, and Thomas continued to offer guidance, his belief in her never wavering. But it wasn't just the professional growth that made her feel fulfilled. It was the way her personal life was evolving as well. She had finally found a sense of balance, something she had always struggled to achieve. Sarah had always been so focused on providing for Lucas and making sure he had everything he needed that she had forgotten to take care of herself. But now, she was learning how to do both. She was becoming the person she always wanted to be, strong, capable, and confident. As the project she was leading neared completion, Thomas called her into his office for a meeting. She walked in, feeling a bit nervous, unsure of what the meeting would be about. "Sarah," Thomas said, his voice calm and steady. "I just wanted to take a moment to recognize everything you've done for the company. You've exceeded expectations in every way, and I'm proud of the work you've done on this project." Sarah felt a rush of pride. "Thank you, Thomas. I couldn't have done it without the support of the team." Thomas smiled, nodding. "I know, and I appreciate you acknowledging that. But there's something I want to offer you." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "A partnership," Thomas said. "I want to offer you a partnership in the company. You've proven that you have what it takes to lead, and I want you to be a part of the future of this company. You've earned it." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. A partnership? She had started this journey as a single mother struggling to make ends meet, and now, Thomas was offering her a stake in the company. It felt unreal. "Are you serious?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm serious," Thomas said with a smile. "I've watched you grow, Sarah. You're not just a good employee, you're a leader, and I want to make sure you have the opportunity to continue growing, not just for yourself, but for the future of this company. You're a part of this now." Sarah didn't know what to say. This wasn't just a promotion anymore. This was a life-changing opportunity, one that would set her and Lucas up for a future she had only dreamed of. She took a deep breath, her emotions overwhelming her. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what to say. This is everything I've ever wanted." Thomas stood up from his desk and walked over to her. "You've earned it, Sarah. You've worked harder than anyone, and now it's time to take your place. This is just the beginning." Sarah smiled, her heart full of gratitude. She had come so far, and now, she had the chance to build a future that would last. As she walked out of the office that day, she felt a new sense of purpose. She wasn't just a single mother anymore. She wasn't just an employee. She was a partner in the company, and she was on her way to achieving everything she had ever dreamed of. And as she thought about her son, Lucas, she knew that this opportunity wasn't just for her. It was for him too. They had both come so far, and now, the sky was the limit. Sarah sat at her desk, the weight of the day's decision still settling in. The partnership offer from Thomas had been a turning point, a defining moment in her life that she hadn't fully absorbed yet. It was hard to believe that just a few months ago, she was struggling to make ends meet, barely able to hold on to the pieces of her life. And now, she had a stake in a company, something she never thought possible. She glanced at the clock. It was almost time to pick up Lucas from school, and her thoughts turned to him. How far they had come, how much they had both grown. Sarah stood up, grabbed her bag, and headed out the door. She couldn't wait to see Lucas and share the news with him. He had been her motivation all along. The reason she kept fighting, kept pushing forward, even when it seemed like the world was against her. When she arrived at his school, she saw him standing by the gate, chatting with his new friends, a smile on his face. Her heart melted at the sight. "Hey, buddy," she called out, walking over to him. "How was school today?" Lucas turned around and ran to her, wrapping his arms around her in a tight hug. "It was awesome, Mom. We did a science experiment, and I think I'm going to be a scientist when I grow up." Sarah laughed, her heart swelling with pride. "That sounds amazing, sweetheart. You're going to be anything you want to be." She ruffled his hair, then paused, looking down at him with a smile. "I've got some news for you." "What is it, Mom?" Lucas asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. "I've been given a big opportunity," she said, kneeling down to his level. "I've been offered a partnership at my company." That means I'm going to have more responsibility, and I'll be able to help more people. Lucas's eyes lit up with excitement. Wow, Mom. That's so cool. He hugged her again, his small arms wrapping around her neck. I'm so proud of you, Mom. You're a superhero. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Her little boy, the one who had been her rock through it all, was now proud of her. It was a feeling she had never fully experienced before. In that moment, she realized that all the hard work, all the sacrifices had been worth it. Not just for her, but for him too. Thank you, buddy, she whispered, kissing him on the cheek. You're my inspiration. I do this all for you. As they drove home, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. She had come from a place of uncertainty and fear, not knowing how she would keep going, and now she had a future. A future where she wasn't just surviving, but thriving. She wasn't just working for a paycheck anymore. She was working for something bigger than herself. She was working to create a life for Lucas, a life that was full of opportunity and possibility. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Sarah settled into her new role as a partner, taking on new responsibilities and making a bigger impact at the company. She was leading meetings, working with new clients, and driving key projects that were shaping the future of the business. But despite the increased workload, she never lost sight of what mattered most: her son, Lucas. Every evening, she would come home and spend quality time with him, helping him with his homework, reading him bedtime stories, and talking about his day. They had created a new rhythm, one that balanced work, family, and personal growth. One day, as Sarah was wrapping up a meeting with Thomas, he pulled her aside. You've done an incredible job, Sarah, he said, his tone warm and sincere. I want you to know that I'm proud of the work you've done, and I'm looking forward to seeing where you go from here. Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of his words. Thank you, Thomas, she said, her voice steady. I couldn't have done it without the support you've given me. I appreciate everything. Thomas nodded, his eyes filled with respect. You've earned everything you have, Sarah, and there's so much more to come. As Sarah walked back to her office, she felt a surge of gratitude. It was hard to believe how much her life had changed in such a short amount of time. She had a successful career, a strong relationship with Lucas, and a sense of confidence she had never known before. And it was all because she had taken a chance on herself, because she had believed that she could do more than just survive. She could thrive. That night, as she sat down to dinner with Lucas, she couldn't help but smile. What's on your mind, Mom? Lucas asked, sensing her happiness. Just thinking about how lucky I am, Sarah said, her heart full. Lucky? Lucas asked, tilting his head. Why? Because I have you, Sarah replied, reaching over to squeeze his hand. And because I have the chance to build the life we've always dreamed of. Lucas smiled, his face lighting up. I'm lucky too, Mom. You're the best. And in that moment, Sarah realized that this was what it was all about. It wasn't about the job, the promotion, or the success. It was about the love they shared, the life they were building together. And that was worth more than anything else. The future was bright, and Sarah knew that no matter what came next, they would face it together. As Sarah continued to settle into her new life, she couldn't help but feel like she was finally living the life she had always dreamed of. She had come so far, from struggling to make ends meet, to now being a partner at a successful company. Her relationship with Lucas was stronger than ever, and the love they shared was the foundation of everything she did. They had created a new life, one filled with opportunities, stability, and most importantly, happiness. But just when things seemed to be going perfectly, life had another test in store for Sarah. One morning, as she was getting ready to head to work, she received an unexpected call. It was from Thomas. Sarah, we need to talk, he said, his voice unusually serious. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Is everything okay? She asked, her mind racing with possible scenarios. There's been a situation, Thomas replied. I need you to meet me at the office as soon as possible. It's important. Sarah quickly dropped everything and rushed to the office, her mind spinning with questions. As she arrived, she saw that Thomas was waiting for her in his office, looking more serious than usual. What's going on? She asked, anxiety creeping into her voice. Thomas stood up from his desk, his face grim. We've encountered some challenges with the company's finances, he said, pacing back and forth. There are some legal issues we need to address, and it could affect the future of the business. Sarah felt her stomach drop. What does this mean for the company? she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. It means we're going to have to make some tough decisions, Thomas said, his tone heavy with concern. There may be layoffs, budget cuts, and restructuring. It's going to be a difficult time, but I want you to know that I'm doing everything I can to make sure we get through this. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to absorb everything he was saying. She had worked so hard to get to where she was, and the thought of losing it all was terrifying. But she knew one thing for sure. She couldn't give up. What can I do to help? She asked, her voice firm with determination. Thomas looked at her, his expression softening. I'm glad you asked, he said. I need you to step up, to help lead the team through this crisis. You've proven yourself time and time again, and I know you have the strength to help guide us through this. Sarah felt a surge of responsibility. This was her chance to prove to herself, and to everyone else, that she was capable of handling whatever came her way. I'm ready, she said without hesitation. I'll do whatever it takes to help us get through this. Over the next few weeks, Sarah worked tirelessly alongside Thomas and the rest of the team to tackle the financial and legal issues that had arisen. It wasn't easy. There were long hours, tough decisions, and many sleepless nights. But Sarah didn't back down. She was determined to help save the company, to protect everything they had built. She leaned on her newfound confidence, her leadership skills, and her ability to stay calm under pressure. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah began to see the results of their hard work. They had made it through the worst of the crisis, and while there was still a long road ahead, the company was starting to recover. The layoffs were minimal, the legal issues were being resolved, and the team was stronger than ever. Sarah felt a deep sense of pride in what they had accomplished and in herself. She had faced a major test, and she had passed with flying colors. One afternoon, as she sat in her office, reflecting on everything that had happened, Thomas knocked on the door and entered. Sarah, I just wanted to say thank you, he said, his tone warm and appreciative. You were incredible during this whole process. You stepped up when we needed you most, and you made a real difference. I'm proud of you. Sarah smiled, feeling a wave of emotion wash over her. Thank you, Thomas, she said, her voice thick with gratitude. I couldn't have done it without you and the team. We're in this together. As Sarah sat back in her chair, looking out the window, she realized just how much she had grown. Not only had she proven herself as a leader at work, but she had also grown as a person. She had learned to embrace the challenges life threw her way and to face them with courage and determination. And most importantly, she had learned that no matter what happened, she would always have Lucas by her side. Together, they had built a life, and together, they would continue to grow and thrive. No obstacle, no matter how big, could ever take that away. As Sarah continued to lead the company through its recovery, the weight of the past few months began to settle into her bones. But this time, she didn't feel burdened by it. She felt stronger, more capable. The work was still challenging, but it no longer felt overwhelming. She had proven to herself, and to others, that she was ready for whatever came her way. Thomas had kept his word. He had supported her every step of the way, and now the company was on a path to prosperity again. And Sarah was in the driver's seat, leading the charge, taking the business to new heights. One evening, after a particularly successful meeting with a new client, Sarah found herself standing by the window of her office, gazing out at the city below. The skyline had always been a symbol of ambition to her, a reminder of how far she had come. But now, it didn't just represent dreams, it represented the reality she had created. She had fought for this, every step of the way, and now it was hers. Her phone buzzed on her desk, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a text from Lucas. Mom, I love you. You're the best. A smile spread across Sarah's face as she read the message. Every time she saw Lucas's name pop up on her phone, her heart swelled with pride. He was her reason, her motivation, and now, thanks to everything she had accomplished, they both had a future filled with possibilities. She quickly texted back, I love you too, sweetie. I'll be home soon. As she gathered her things and prepared to leave the office for the day, Thomas knocked on the door and stepped inside. Sarah, I just wanted to tell you one more time how proud I am of you, he said, his voice warm and sincere. The way you've handled everything over the past few months has been nothing short of amazing. You've proven that you're not just a great employee, but a true leader. The company wouldn't be where it is today without you. Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Thank you, Thomas. I couldn't have done it without your support. Thomas smiled, his eyes filled with respect. You've earned everything, Sarah. And I know this is just the beginning for you. As Sarah left the office and made her way home, she couldn't help but reflect on the journey she had taken. There had been so many moments of doubt, so many times she had wondered if she was doing enough, if she was good enough. But now, she knew the answer. She was enough. She had built a life for herself and Lucas, and she had done it through hard work, dedication, and a belief in herself that had grown stronger every day. When she got home, Lucas was waiting for her, just as he always was. Mom, guess what? He said, running up to her with excitement in his voice. I got a perfect score on my math test. Sarah's heart swelled with pride as she hugged him tightly. I knew you could do it, she said, her voice filled with emotion. You're amazing, Lucas. That night, as they sat together on the couch, Sarah thought about how far they had come. They had weathered storms, faced challenges, and come out stronger on the other side. And now, they were ready for whatever the future had in store. Sarah had learned so much over the past few months, not just about work, but about herself. She had learned that she didn't have to do it all alone, that it was okay to accept help, and that taking chances and embracing opportunities could lead to unimaginable rewards. She had built a life for herself, a life that was full of love, opportunity, and hope. And, most importantly, she had created a future for Lucas, a future where he could dream big and know that anything was possible. As Sarah kissed Lucas goodnight and tucked him into bed, she felt a sense of peace she had never known before. She had fought for this life, for this family, and now she knew that nothing could take it away. They were strong, they were united, and they were ready for whatever came next. Sarah turned off the light and quietly left the room, her heart full of gratitude. She had come so far, but she knew this was just the beginning. The future was bright, and she couldn't wait to see where the journey would take them next.